2015 was a year all about Syria, much like any of its preceding 4 years. The beginning was with Moscow-hosted talks between Syrian government representatives and opposition figures, which were the first of their kind since the failure of Geneva II conference on Syria in 2014. The talks lasted 4 days and aimed to establish a common ground for a political solution to the crisis. The advantage of Moscow talks is the agreement to hold another meeting, paving the way for thorough intra-Syrian peace talks in Damascus. According to this agreement, the Syrian delegation and 5 opposition parties, along with other political figures, will meet and discuss combating terrorism in all its aspects with no foreign intervention and preserving the sovereignty of Syria and the unity of its army. The Syrian delegation was open within the talks with opposition figures and accepted to discuss all the ideas on the table. Yet the problem was that the opposition representatives have major disagreements and lack for mutual vision. However, the Syrian National Coalition decided not to attend the second Moscow-hosted Syria talks and stressed on the necessity of being committed to the results of Geneva II conference, along with the Geneva Agreement in June 2012. At the end of September, the Russian aerial campaign against the Islamic State was launched. This came after the Syrian government officially asked Moscow for military support, and the Russian Federation Council accepted to allow the Russian President Vladimir Putin to use military force outside the country. On the 20th of October, President Bashar al-Assad visited Moscow. This was his first visit abroad ever since the beginning of the Syrian crisis, an act which drew the attention of all eyes around the world. On the 30th of October, foreign ministers of 19 countries gathered in Vienna, aiming to find a political solution to the Syrian crisis. Among the participants were the US, Russia, France, Turkey, and for the first time Iran, but with complete absence of any representation of Syrian government or opposition. The countries agreed on the essential steps to launch political talks before the end of 2015, stressing that the future of Syrians should only be decided by them. And the Vienna peace process doesn't contradict with the results of Geneva I conference, for it involves increasing the efforts to help Syrian people and solving the refugee crisis. On the 18th of December, a meeting was held in New York, preparing for the session of the United Nations Security Council, which was held shortly after the meeting, and its results was that the Security Council approved a decision that aims to reach a political solution to the Syrian crisis. The decision number 2254 asserted that only Syrians are entitled to decide what their future would look like, and that terrorist organizations are not to be included in any political solution. The decision also pointed out that negotiations are to be held between representatives of the Syrian government and the opposition in January 2016, and asked the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to gather the delegations of Syrian government and opposition through the office of UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura. The political efforts made in 2015 regarding to the Syrian crisis indicate that a serious political solution to the war is looming in horizon. Noor Muhammad, MEC.